What's up? In today's video, we'll get into the technicals of an NFT. We'll discuss what is an NFT, what does it mean to own an NFT, and how does the NFT know which is the corresponding image or JPEGs as we fondly call it belongs to a certain NFT. We'll only discuss the technicals of an NFT. We won't write any code, just understand what goes on behind the scenes. And from the next video onwards, we'll start writing some code to create our own NFTs. But before we get into that, please make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, just write a comment if you have anything to ask. It really keeps me motivated and helps me out with the YouTube algorithm and stuff. Alright then, let's get started. So NFT comes in two flavors, I would say. One is EIP 721, also called ERC 721, and the other is EIP 1155 or ERC 1155. Both are NFT standards, but there's a slight difference in the way they work. So today we'll only discuss the original 721 NFT standard, ERC 721. It's the same standard that's used by Bored Ape Yacht Club, Pudgy Penguins, and all the new NFT projects that people are just waiting to buy up. So if you have seen my ERC20 token video, you would have seen that basically in an ERC20 token there were 7 or 9 different methods or functions that you needed to put in your smart contract, and with that we were able to create our token. So same with an NFT, there are a few functions as you can see on the screen: transfer, approval for all these are events, and then there's balance of, owner of, safe transfer from again and transfer from, approve, blah blah blah. So there are a few functions that you need to sort of implement in your contract to make sure that your contract is basically ERC 721 compliant or NFT compliant. And if you do that, OpenSea and a bunch of other NFT marketplaces can read your NFT correctly and let you sell those NFTs on their own platforms. Now, most of the methods are sort of fairly self-explanatory. For example, balance of returns how many NFTs of this collection or this smart contract does the owner have. Similarly, owner of returns who is the owner of this token ID on an NFT. So at this point, we need to define what exactly is an NFT, right? So NFT, if you think about it, is a combination of two things: the smart contract address and the other is the token ID. So in ERC 721, one token can only have one owner. A unique token can be identified with the token's address, smart contract address, and the token ID. So if let's say on a certain address I own an NFT, so the owner of method will return my address. It returns an address. It will return my address if I enter my token ID. So let's see this in action. So in one of my earlier videos, I had minted this NFT, Pluto the Planet, this collection actually. So if I go here and check out the address and the token of this specific address NFT, I can see it over here. This is the address and then this is the token. Because this is Matic chain, what I'll do is I'll open Polygon scan and I'll enter the address. Now because this is my NFT, I have already submitted the contract code. So Polygon scan will be able to give me methods to read and write in the contract, which is great. So let's go ahead and open read contract. Here you'll see that these methods are very similar to what you see over here, because if you have to be NFT compliant, you have to implement these methods: balance of and owner of, safe transfer from again, transfer from, and all those things. So if I open this one, which is Pluto number 2, the token ID of this one is 2. So I'll go over here and see the owner of method and I'll enter 2 and I'll query over here. So now once I've queried, I realized the answer that this function has given is this specific address, which if I check over here, is actually mine. All right. So this is how I know I own this NFT. Till now, there has been no talk about image or anything. It's just that we are trying to find out who owns an NFT. And what is an NFT? It's a combination of the address and the token ID in a smart contract. So smart contract's address and the token ID at which we have to find the NFT. So whoever owns this token ID, and how do we know who owns it? We have sort of a hash map in the code where we store the token ID and the corresponding owner of it. And if we call the owner of method, and we in the mapping we figure out for the token ID 2 the owner is this address, so we know that this address owns this token, and that is how we know that this address, this person, owns that NFT. And because of the way we have written code, only this person can transfer its NFT to somebody else, or there's a safe transfer from also, where you can let other smart contracts or people transfer your own NFT to somebody else. So when you are giving approval to OpenSea to sell your NFT, this is what you're doing. You're allowing OpenSea to transfer your NFT whenever they want. To do that, what you do is basically you call this approve function with the to address and your token ID. Or another thing that you can do is you call set approval for all. You enter the operator's address. So here you will put OpenSea's sort of smart contract address, and you put true or false approved. All right. Once you do this, OpenSea gets approval for you on behalf of you to send your NFTs to somebody else. So this is how we prove the ownership of NFT. You call owner of with the token ID and it returns your address. So you are the owner of that specific NFT, which again is a combination of the pair of address and token ID. To send your NFT to somebody else, you call transfer from. There is no pricing involved or anything here. It just lets you transfer your NFT to somebody else. You can of course add in the code in the smart contract where if somebody sends you this amount of money, you send your NFT to somebody else. And that is how sort of minting works. You send some Ether or Matic or whatever token to a smart contract, and because you send that amount to that smart contract, what they do is they add a mapping of a new token ID, and the owner of that token ID sort of becomes your address. They put this mapping in their owner's mapping or hash map, and that is how we keep track of things. Now all this is fine, but how do we know what is the art or image or JPEG or audio, video, whatever related to an NFT? We haven't figured out that right now, right? So to do that, we use this extension called Metadata Extension, which is sort of optional for NFTs. So NFTs don't really need some sort of file associated with them. They are just an NFT if there is a unique owner of a specific pair of address and ID. Keep that in mind. So in the metadata extension, what we add are things like name, symbol, and token URI. So name is pretty self-explanatory. What is the name of this collection or contract? Symbol is similar to how we had symbol for tokens. It sort of takes the same thing, and you create a symbol for each NFT that each NFT collection that you have deployed. This is sort of deprecated like in real life usage. Not people don't really use symbols anymore, but it's still there because it's written in the specification. If I remember correctly, this has been dropped in the 1155 specification, but today we are discussing only 721, so we are going to stick to that. And the third thing, the most major thing, is token URI, where you put in a token ID and the function returns a URI, which tells us how to retrieve the metadata for this NFT's token ID. So this function could return, let's say, an HTTP URL, where it'd be like https:// blah 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 .com/API/1.json, because let's say if you enter token ID 1, So this could return that token ID, and when you hit that URL, you will get something like this. You will get a JSON object which sort of corresponds to this specific schema. It requires a name of the NFT, description of the NFT, image of the NFT. So this image is a URI again, which points to the actual image. So let's see this in action again. If I go to Pluto the Planet's contract again, and I go to read contract this time, you'll see that we have this token URI method, and over here we can add one and press query. Now when we do, we get this IPFS colon slash slash and then some hash. All right. This is from my project called Minterium, which sort of mints NFTs on the IPFS. So in this case, what we do is we store a mapping of token ID and token URI. So this is what is the response that we got from the planet's token URI. So when I open that URL, this is the response that I get. It's the name, the description. Remember, this is for token ID 1. So the name is Pluto number 1. The description is the collection has 9 photos of Pluto. And then there's an image and then external URL. So if you see this external URL, this is my channel's external URL. And you can also see this link over here. It's the same URL that you see. Now let me open this image now. So I go and open this hash of this image. This is for Pluto number 1. We are looking at Pluto number 2 over here. So I'll just open Pluto number 1. So this is the image that we should see over here once it loads, and the image has loaded, and you can see that this is the same image as this one. So this is how NFT figures out what image is attached to it. Now because this was IPFS and the IPFS hash sort of changes with the file, so we can be fairly certain this NFT will never lose the original image behind it. But now let's see some NFTs which are sort of not on IPFS and work with some APIs. So there is this nice cute looking NFT collection called Crazy Koalas NFT. And you can see that this is a very standard, fairly standard NFT project. Now if I open a specific NFT, it sort of opens up, and then I can find the address over here and the token ID over here. If you're ever confused, you can also go to the details part of it and find out that the contract address is this. You can open it. It opens in Etherscan because this is on Ethereum, and it also has a token ID that I can copy. Make sure that the token standard is ERC721, the one that we are discussing today. So the Crazy Koala's Etherscan page has opened up, and you can see that the contract has been submitted. So we have the access to sort of read and write the contract. Now if I go and click on read contract and I go down and see token URI, all right, I'll paste the token ID over here and I'll write query. So now this gives me back a normal domain, right? And I can open this URL over here. It says crazykoalas.io API/936. And now this is giving me the metadata for this NFT. There's nothing wrong with, using a domain and then sort of generating the NFT like this. But beware, whenever a project does that, the owner of the domain has all the power to change your NFT, right? If this crazykoalas.io domain expires and I buy it tomorrow, I can go and change all the image URIs, all the images that are being returned on this URL, and all the attributes and everything, and suddenly your NFT has changed. The one that you bought is not the same as the one you have right now. So this is some sort of diligence that you should always do. IPFS is always a preferred way to hold on to NFTs for a long term. Some people, what they do is they put in the URL like this, like gateway.pinyatacloud./IPFS/ the hash of the IPFS, and claim that your NFT lives on IPFS. It's true The file is present on IPFS, but there's a big problem. Because the image sort of points to this specific URL, if this domain expires and I buy it and I change everything, or if I go rogue and I own this domain and I change things, your NFT's image will change. So this is always something to keep in mind. If you're buying your NFT for the long term, make sure that it's not dependent on a domain and that it's sort of present on the IPFS. So if I now go ahead and click on this URL, it should open up this image, and it did. So lo and behold, this is how NFT works. This is how an NFT figures out what is the image that is associated with that NFT. There are a bunch of other things over here which are like attributes. The external URL is basically a URL that comes up over here. But then there are other things called like attributes, which there are this is an array of attributes. The array has objects which are trait type background, value common, trait type outfit, value magician, and let me just put this over here. And if I go over here and click on properties over here, you'll see that the trait type is background. You can see over here trait type background, and here also it's background, and the value is common, and here also the value is common. The trait type over here is earring. You can see that the trait type earring has value none, and it says none. So this is how OpenSea or any marketplace figures out what are the traits, what are the properties of a specific NFT. So now that we figured out how does OpenSea or any marketplace get the NFTs data, let's move forward and see what else is there to explore. If you move forward in the AIP 721 specification, you'll see that there's this section called NFT Identifiers, which I again want you to go through yourself. I'll read it over here just so you are completely certain what an NFT is. Every NFT is identified by a unique ID inside the ERC721 smart contract. This identifying number shall not change for the life of the contract. The pair contract address comma integer token ID will then be a globally unique and fully qualified identifier for a specific asset on an Ethereum chain. While some ERC721 smart contracts may find it convenient to start with ID 0 and simply increment by 1 for each new NFT, callers shall not assume that ID numbers have any specific pattern to them and must treat the ID as a black box. Also note that NFTs may become invalid, be destroyed, or burned as we like to call it. Please see the enumerations function for a supported enumeration interface, which is something you put in your contract to so that marketplaces or any other dApp can enumerate through your NFTs, go through them one by one, because the token IDs might be burned. Alright, so this is an NFT. It's a combination of your contract address and your token ID. When we call the method owner of on that specific contract with a specific token ID, it returns an address of the user who owns that NFT. There is a token URI method on that NFT which returns a URI, which can be IPFS or HTTP or whatever. And when you open that URI, you receive a metadata JSON file, which looks something like this. It has name, description, image, and a bunch of other things. The URI present in the image key of this metadata returns the NFT's identity, the visual part that you see. Alright, so this is what an NFT is. Let's just go through another NFT project and see how that does. The Boat Ape Yacht Club. It's a very famous project as of now. The price to enter the floor price is 33 Ethereum, which is huge. Now we're looking at this NFT, the details of which are the contract address is this, the token ID is 8417, and the token standard is 721. Now if I go to the contract and read contract, and I go to token URI and I enter the token ID, so this will return an IPFS hash and then slash number. This is also why Bored Ape Yacht Club is so famous. It can never go down because it works on IPFS. If your IPFS file is not present, you can host it yourself, download it right now and host it yourself, and it works. So I open that IPFS file, and what I see is that the name and description are missing. But you'll see that the name is never changed for any Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT, and the only thing that is different is the ID that sort of belongs there. So if I click on here, you'll see that the NFT does not have any name. It just says Bored Ape Yacht Club, but it does have some properties. And if we go over here, we'll see that the properties are there. So this one was for 8417. Let me just bring this over here close to it. So it says mouth dumbfounded, and if I go to properties, the mouth is dumbfounded. Similarly, eyes bloodshot, and because this was a well done NFT project, the eyes are also bloodshot. The mouth is dumbfounded. The clothes are lumberjack t-shirt, which I'm pretty sure is written over here, right? So this is how Bored Ape Yacht Club sort of stores its metadata. Now the other thing that is there in Bored Ape Yacht Club is the file, the IPFS file, the image, sorry. And now if I open that, it opens this image, which is this, and voila, that is how Bored Ape Yacht Club functions on the background, in the background. Now I just want to explain the difference between 721 and 1155 once. So in 721, ERC 721, the NFT standard, the original NFT standard, each NFT can have only one owner because the number of tokens are just one. So in 721, we have one contract address and one token ID, and that will only give us one response, who is the owner. But in ERC 1155, what happens is every token can have multiple owners. So let's say one token has a total supply of 10. So each token can have 10 different owners at max, or one person owning all the tokens of that NFT. So this one is basically a combination of ERC20, where we have tokens, and ERC 721, where we have NFTs. Let's say there is an NFT called a sword. So that sword can have 10 different swords of the same type. And instead of we creating 10 different NFTs, which is also very valid, what we do is in this ERC1155 token, the methods are sort of different. So which is why we are able to assign that one sword to multiple people. I know it's a bit confusing, so let me just explain. Now, unlike the owner of method in ERC 721, what we use in ERC 1155 is the balance of method function. Here what we do is we enter the owner and the ID. This ID is the token ID, and what we do is we say, for this token ID in this specific smart contract, how many items does this address owner have? So let's say there are 10 swords of the same type, and they have token ID 1. So what will I do is I'll put token ID 1 over here, and I'll put my address in this owner argument. And if I own 3, this method returns 3. If I own 0, it returns 0. If I own 10, it returns 10. Now, another thing what I can do is I can transfer one of my swords to somebody else. So what happens is my balance reduces by 1 and the other person's balance increases by 1. This transferring is very similar to how we were doing for ERC20 tokens. The difference is that instead of 10 to the power 18 decimals and all those things, we are just working with very small numbers over here. Now ERC1155 also has metadata, and it works the similar way. We enter a URI, and through this URI function we enter the token ID. It gives us a URI. We open that URI, it returns the JSON object containing the metadata information and the image URL, and then we open that URL to actually look at what it looks like. I think that's it for today. I hope you understood what an NFT is, how does it work, how does it know, what art is it related to, how do we transfer it, and what does it mean to own an NFT. So in this video, we basically understood just how things work in the background, but from the next video onwards, we'll start creating our own ERC-721 token, we'll deploy it, and we'll interact with it using JavaScript and all. And we'll create some functionality around that NFT and see how all things sort of come together. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you stick on till the next video as well. If you want to get reminders, please subscribe, please hit that bell icon, like this video, comment, so that YouTube algorithm sort of suggests you this video and whatnot. And I hope to see you again next week. Bye bye.